Good afternoon. This is Gaurav from miniOrange. I look after the global business, strategic partnerships and alliances at miniOrange. We welcome you all on behalf of entire miniOrange team and our premium partner from the Australian region, Syntax Consulting. I would like to express my gratitude to all the participants who have joined, and also to Zia for arranging this webinar and to ensure that we'll have a good knowledge participations from both the sides. So we'll be starting in a minute. There are few people who would be joining. So the duration in which we'll present this webinar will consisting of 3 parts. The first part is definitely I will get you through the entire prospect of what would be this webinar all about, and what is the concept of zero trust, and how the miniOrange team is building on that solution by pioneering with the IAM. So we will have a basic introduction about that. After that, we have a different building blocks. Based on that, we have built this concept of zero trust. So there will be live demos on each modules, very sharp and crisp. These modules are and their capabilities are. And once it's done, so there are at least 6 to 7 modules, which along with my colleagues and experts, they would be showcasing that. Once that is done, we will have a question and answer session for the participants. If someone wants to speak about the webinar, ask the doubts, we have expert team sitting here. We will do it in the last 15 minutes. But meanwhile, all audiences, participants are allowed to ask a question or drop your query in the chat bot. So there is a chat window. You can always drop a questions. You can always post your queries, and our expert team will be there to handle all those queries. We'll be interacting. Our experts will be interacting with all the team. Once we'll finish with the live demos and also the presentation of this, the entire zero trust and IAM. So let's start this webinar. So the entire focus is on how we ensure that our network is protected, our infrastructure is protected, and what are the different modules that we can bring to ensure that the pain points are addressed. To talk about the miniOrange, we are into this business from last 13 odd years. We have 20,000 plus customers globally. We work with enterprise, we work with government entities across the globe. In every region, starting with Europe, Australia, US, Asia Pacific, Southeast Asia, we have the global players who are the part of miniOrange family. We have built 50 plus security products till date. And there is a single click installation of this all 6,000 plus pre-integrated application in which you can easily do single sign-on as well as multi-factor authentication. Our presence is globally, and this has been an completely, the organic growth we have achieved in last 13 odd years. We have a partner in Australia, which is Syntax Consulting, which is headed by Mohammad Ziauddin. He is our premium partner, and the organization takes care of most of the IT businesses and around that. I request Zia, to introduce about the Syntax Consulting and also give a brief about the webinar. Over to you, Zia.
Thank you, Gaurav. My name is Ziauddin Mohammed. I've been associated with Syntax Consulting since its conception. We've been working in Australia with Australian customers, mostly government and not-for-profits, largely those, but we have there are other areas where we work in as well. So we had a transformation of operations and the conception of the name, and all that happened in 2022. We look at ourselves as IT solutions partner. So basically, we partner with different organizations. We provide trainings to strengthen their teams. We build software solutions to make sure that people are able to do what they need to be able to do. We work on projects across Australia, but there's other projects that we undertake overseas as well. Some common projects that we've done are mostly in Asia Pacific region and Middle East. We also represent a lot of big IT organizations. We go in as them and do the work for their customers. A large part of the business is around that use case. A lot of the major technology partners, technology companies we partner with include like Microsoft, AWS, and obviously miniOrange. That's why we're here. And key industries that we serve is Australian government, both federal and local, not-for-profits, mostly environmental, mental health agencies and whatnot. Then there is medical providers. We support a lot of medical providers like anesthesia, and other specialized medical services, surgeons and whatnot. And then there is corporate businesses that we also look after, which is small and medium businesses. And a lot of these services that we provide are around security, compliance, cloud. There's some end user services that we provide as well. It's a very small business, but we do still provide end user services. And consulting is the other business, which is like our biggest revenue generator at this stage. Project management, building software, and building solutions for typical use cases for large government agencies and NGOs and not-for-profits. So that's a summary of what Syntax Consulting is and what we do. And about this webinar, it is to do with Zero Trust and how miniOrange are putting in their time into that use case and how they're building solutions to solve real-world problems around IAM and Zero Trust for most organizations. As we all know, cybersecurity is the next revolution. So I think miniOrange is quite well equipped to deal with the challenges that come with that. And with that, I hand over back to you, Gaurav. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Zia. It was very nice and brief introduction about our partnership as well as with the Syntax Consulting. So if you are from the region and if you required any kind of help, assistance in setting up the infrastructure or related stuff, Syntax Consulting, Zia is always, a one phone call away, and so as miniOrange. Moving on, we are Microsoft AWS Oracle partner, and we are also into all these marketplaces, popularly known as the plugin vendors. So we add the value on top of Microsoft modules. We add the value on top of Oracle modules, and similarly with the AWS. So whatever the feature gap which is there into all these identity and access management solutions, what we have, we are known to be a value-added player to all these, big organizations like Microsoft and Oracle. If you search miniOrange, we are one of the highest rated IDP in the market. Recently, the Gartner has awarded us a strong performer in the voice of the customer region. And why the customer is loving us, believing in our product, is because our product walked the talk. Our product has addressed the right pain points of the customers from last 12 odd years. We are having 24/7 support to all our customers across the globe. We work across 5 time zones, and we do a lot of customization for our customers because we understand in the cybersecurity scenario, there is no fire and forget policy. So when you deploy the solution, it is almost essential to serve them post services also, because there is a lot of customization needed based on the use case, which most of the allied organization in our space hesitant to do that. So we go an extra mile for our customer, and that's the reason we are one amongst the highest rated IDP in the market. So our cheerleaders are our customers. We hardly do any marketing stuff. Generally, the scenario in the miniOrange is one customer give us the reference of 5 more customers, and that's how we have built the portfolio of 20,000 plus customers. We do the on-premises as well as cloud, both the deployments. We have the heavy set of references for both the cloud as well as for the on-premises. We do offer the private cloud as well. Then there is a buzz around zero trust. So I think we all are aware that zero trust is not the product. It's a strategy to address the pain point. It's a strategy to ensure that your valuable assets are protected, either through external attacks or also as from the internal attacks. So basically, the players who are there in zero trust are bringing the module on the same platform, wiring them together to address your pain point and ensure that your critical infrastructure is being protected. So the zero trust definition varies from customer to customer. So if any organization is selling the zero trust to you, it should not be generic. That is very much clear. It should be according to the pain points that the institution is having. So we have listed out here 8 to 9 points, which ensures that the zero trust can be implemented. So in the zero trust, the first concept, the hypothesis is your all devices, users and connections, you need to assume that they can be compromised. And what you have to do in order to, stop those attacks. So the attacks can be external. Attacks also can be from the internal employees. And they could be treated as, potential threatening posture. So the first element which goes into the zero trust network is validity. Who they are, what they are doing, what kind of applications they are accessing, how we ensure that they have access only to right applications, how we ensure that when they leave the organization, all the accesses can be revoked automatically without having a manual work. How we ensure that despite having multiple attributes, despite having multiple identities in different locations, in different databases, how it will not create a chaos when the employee leaves the organization. The next point is you need to implement the least privilege access policies. You need to continuously monitor and analyze your network traffic for any kind of anomalies. You need to encrypt data both in transit as well as it at rest. And it's a decade-long story in the cybersecurity scenario that you should have micro-segmentation. The people are calling now, a term with the evolved version of decentralization. Okay, so how you ensure that you have different pockets, and in those different pockets, your identities are protected, your identities are well authenticated, and this all hint towards the first step of managing your identities, managing and access to all your critical infrastructure, and managing those identities who are accessing that infrastructure. How you ensure that there are strict access control policies and there is a mechanism in the place. There should be auditing. There should be a dashboard where you can actually see what kind of applications are being accessed by what kind of resources. So all these dashboard, all these points related to the zero trust network. Zero trust network also addresses how you stop the lateral movement. Once any person gets an access to a resource, and if it is observed that is a potentially compromised resource, how you ensure that the person should not get access to the resources, the further resources. That is called lateral movement, how you stop that. So that's all about the zero trust. And if you can see from last 2 to 3 minutes I'm talking, it all points out to the first basic problems of managing identities, of managing the entire user lifecycle management. That's why it was clearly mentioned in our webinar that zero trust is perfectly correlated with IAM, domain, identity and access management. You cannot have zero trust without IAM. So first you should have identity and access management, and on top of that, you should have different modules. according to a use case. It can be PAM, it can be CASB, it can be DLP, it can be MDM, it can be VDIs, it can be anything else. But the basic building block is how you manage your identities. So when it comes to the miniOrange platform, we are one-stop solution to implement the Zero Trust network. We have identity and access management, we have PAM, we have multi-factor authentication, CASB, DLP, MDM, and all this on top of this, if you want to add an extra layer of customization, we are having capabilities to ensure that your entire infrastructure is protected, not only against the external threat, but also with respect to internal threats. So let me bring you the first topic. The first pillar of identity and access management is nothing but single sign-on. So every organization is having a different database. Some users are stored might be in Microsoft AD. Some are stored in on-premise AD, Oracle, or any other databases. miniOrange is having a capability to sync with those databases. miniOrange can become an IDP, and it will give a single-click access, single-click installation for all those 6,000 plus applications. We support standard protocol like SAML and OAuth, and it can be SSO and MFA compatible, which 99% of the organizations or our competitor does that. They give SSO with all those applications. We support standard protocol like SAML, OAuth, JWT, and so forth. But we had seen an increasing trend after COVID, which is 20 to 30% of the applications are developed by either in-house team or by the engineering team, or there are legacy applications. And for that, you need customization. And these applications don't support the standard protocol like SAML and OAuth, which enable single sign-on as well as multi-factor authentication. miniOrange is one amongst the potential vendor in the market. Be it any web-based application, miniOrange is having a capability to do the single sign-on as well as multi-factor authentication. So if your organization is having any in-house application which is built on the top of Java or PHP or .NET, the moment we know the technology stack, we can give the connector which will make the single sign-on and multi-factor authentication possible. There are legacy applications like SAP and Oracle which don't have this protocol because they are header-based authentication. miniOrange is having a solution to do a single sign-on as well as multi-factor authentication on all legacy applications because they are based on the header-based authentication. So we have a proxy solution for the same. So the point I was talking about, the Zero Trust start with single sign-on, where you have your one IDP, where the users are stored, where the identities are managed, and those identities are having access to certain set of application without a password. miniOrange is having a capability in every module to have a passwordless module enabled for you guys, which is, I think, which we are heading towards. Then comes another pillar, which is mandatory for the Zero Trust, is multi-factor authentication. We are one amongst the potential prospect in the market who is having an capability to add an extra layer of MFA or entire infrastructure. I say entire infrastructure. When I say entire infrastructure, means we can protect your Windows, Linux, RDP, Mac machine. We can protect your VPN. We can protect your network devices, routers, switches, and firewalls. And we support 15 plus different MFA methods. Generally speaking, you all are from the same domain. We require at least 2 to 3 vendors to ensure that MFA is laid over the entire infrastructure. miniOrange is the single vendor who is having capability to deploy an extra layer of MFA over your entire infrastructure. Here also, there are many aspects where we do the customization, which I think we can showcase you when we are demonstrating it. Be it any region, MFA is mandatory and it's a compliance nowadays. Even when you log in your Instagram or Facebook, the notification pops in that you need to enable 2FA. We generally ignore that. And that seems to be an entry point for all kind of attacks which are happening across the. Then comes the adaptive authentication, which became more popular post-COVID era, where the employer wants to restrict the employees not only based on the user credential, but also with respect to time, device, IP, and location. We can bind the user to a specific device. We can bind even the specific application to specific device and also to specific user. So we do a lot of customization in this area to ensure that you get the controlled environment where there is a very less chance of, gaining a lateral movement. So that is risk-based authentication, also called as adaptive authentication. Some call it risk postures with the different names. And then comes the last piece in the identity and access management, which is user lifecycle management, which is the key parameter in implementing zero trust. So I will explain the scenario in a minute. So for example, if any users join the organization, his profile gets created in any of the HRMS or CRMS system, or even in Active Directory. And then the real problem starts. The problem is the manager has to give an access to that particular user to certain set of applications. And that might take weeks time, that might take 10 days of time to give an access of that particular new employee to a certain set of applications. This is not the major problem. Major problem is over the period of time, the same employee identities will be created in different DBs which the organization is having. So Gaurav identity in DB1 is present with the name Gaurav 249. Gaurav identity in DB2 is present with the Gaurav Bansod and something like that. And application access to Gaurav will change according to hierarchy. Initially, when Gaurav joins the company, he might have access only to the mobile applications. But as Gaurav grew in the organization, his accesses to certain critical infrastructure also be granted. And over the period of time, there are multiple entries of Gaurav's identity into the multiple DBs, which management or admin or a manager is not aware about. So when Gaurav decided to leave the organization, so the manager or admin deletes his entry from one DB which he is known to, but Gaurav's entry is still present in the multiple DBs for which the different access has been allotted. So even the Gaurav left the organization, Gaurav still have access to all those applications because his entry is not deleted from the other DBs. And you would have also seen this common scenario where the employees left the organization but still have access to their critical infrastructure. And this is the major problem. So we came up with the concept of user lifecycle management, where miniOrange is having a capability to sync with any of the HRMS or CRMS systems, or even with the Active Directory where the user is getting created first. And based on the role defined in the miniOrange, every user will get an access irrespective of their identity stored where and how many times. It can single click access to certain applications, and when the employer leaves the organization, it's all access will be revoked. So it's a single step process to automate the entire user lifecycle management, which is the major pillar of identity and access management, which we are capable of doing it. We'll be showing a live demo also on the same. We also have PAM. So PAM is a chaotic market. We have many players in the PAM. So there are three features which I wanted to highlight in my introduction. The first feature is we are agentless. The second feature is there is the option of pay-as-you-go model where you take only the modules which are required to you and pay only for those modules. And we are, I can say that, the potential vendor in the market who do the customization in the PAM space as well. We had seen the scenario that the larger players in the PAM domain are very much entitled to the 60 or 70 features what they are providing as a suite, which I think we are, doing it with the customization module. So whether it's the password vaulting, audit trails, or privilege session management and recording. So these are the basic features what we are doing with the. So we will have a demo also of the PAM where we can showcase, the entire offerings. We have top customers across the globe. Be it any, so you can simply go to our website and see the customer section, and you can find, every customers you have heard about or known about is using miniOrange or has used miniOrange in the past. Your customers in UK, region. We have Australian customers, the federal as well as state, as well as the private players. We are emerging leader in IAM space in UAE and India, which was highlighted by the Gartner in its recent Voice of the Customer quadrant. We are a big player in the Middle East region, and 5,000 plus organizations are trusting us to ensure that their infrastructure is protected. And we are proud to serve 20,000 happy customers. So that's a very quick introduction. Now I will pass control to my colleague who will showcase you the offerings related to the single sign-on as well as the user provisioning. So Mr. Amar Barik is my colleague. He is software engineer and he takes care of the entire IAM and CIAM and user provisioning module. So if you have any questions, again, I'm saying you can write into the chat box. Our experts will answer that. And we will take question and answer towards the end of this session. So I'm over to you, Amar, for the session to ensure that, we can have a, good understanding of the user provisioning and deprovisioning feature. Over to you, Amar.
Thank you, Gaurav. Let me quickly share my screen and I will show you how miniOrange works and how we can configure the applications and how we can do single sign-on and user lifecycle management. So I hope my screen is visible. So as you can see, the dashboard which you are seeing right now is a miniOrange dashboard. And you can see this single dashboard can be used to configure different applications, and all the configurations are available in a single dashboard. So our main unique point is our support and the setup which we get. So we have different setup guides for each and every applications, as well as the setup which we did is very simple. So you can set up any single sign-on application or any provisioning application by just a single click. So if I click on this setup, then you can see that we have, as Gaurav already mentioned, that for doing single sign-on into different applications, the application should have support for standard protocols like SAML, OAuth, JWT. And if any application which doesn't support these standard application, then for that we have connectors. Okay. And the connectors are also available for different languages like PHP and Java connector, like .NET connector. So you can see if you will, if let's say any application is there which supports SAML. So you can click here and you can simply search for that application. Let's say you want to configure Office 365. Okay, I think some of the attendees are not able to see my screen. Let me reshare the screen. So is my screen visible to everyone right now? Gaurav, can you confirm?
Yes. Yeah, it's visible, but are you guys able to see the screen? Anyone can just chat it. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Over to you, Amar.
Okay. Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you for the confirmation. So I will quickly, for some of them, the screen was not visible. So let me summarize it once again quickly. So this is our miniOrange dashboard, and you can see here, you can by single click, you can customize the branding. You can add identity sources like you can add Active Directory as your identity source, or you can add Google, or you can add Entra ID. Anything can be added by just a single click. You can click on the setup, and if that application has support for the standard SSO protocols like SAML, OAuth, or JWT, then that can be configured directly. Similarly, you can set up single sign-on for the application, that is the service providers. So if you will click on this setup, then you can see here different tiles are there according to the applications which support that standard protocol. So if I will go to SAML, then let's say I want to configure Office 365 applications. In that case, Office 365 supports SAML. So you can simply search for Office and you will get it. and all the pre-configuration has been done by miniOrange. And there are many limited fields that you need to fill. Most of the things are already filled by miniOrange. So this is very simple to configure. Also, you can import the SP metadata. You don't have to manually enter it. You can simply click on import, and then you can give the URL, or you can give the text here, and everything will be filled here directly from the XML file. So this is how simple it is to configure all the applications. Then similarly, for the JWT, let's say you have an e-commerce platform like BigCommerce, then you can simply click on this and configure. So here also we gave an option to enter the primary identity provider, where you can select if it's your where are your users stored and where do you want to authenticate our users from. Like it can be Active Directory, it can be Azure, it can be BigCommerce, or any you can say any social login. Also we support like Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. So now talking about user lifecycle management, I think Gaurav has already explained you what exactly user lifecycle management is. So I will quickly go through it and will tell you how you can configure it in miniOrange. So as you can see the diagram which I am showing. So let's say your users are stored in Active Directory and you want to your single source of truth is Active Directory. So in that case, you don't have to manually create that specific user into multiple applications and give them the privileges and access. So let's say a developer joins a company and that wants to get access to only application 1. So in miniOrange, you can what you can do is you can configure a group, and inside that you can create that user. That user will be get access to that specific application according to the group. So the developer will get access to only application 1 if it is there in group 1 only, and if it is not there in group 2, then it will not get access to application 2 and application 3. So this is how miniOrange uses and configures the groups according to the policies. So now going to the provisioning. So you can see here we have different applications like Active Directory, BigCommerce, and you can use any databases also. Then we have Google Apps, Office 365, Salesforce, and many more. Apart from this, miniOrange has also support for the SCIM protocol. That is a standard protocol for provisioning, which nowadays most of the applications are integrating into it. So if any of the application has a support for SCIM, then in that case, that can be integrated with miniOrange, and provisioning can be enabled for them. So we have support for both, that is SCIM client as well as SCIM server. And there are certain applications, pre-built applications, which we have configured so that it will be easier for the admins to set up the SCIM protocol and integrate that application like Slack. Okay. So we have also custom outbound application using which any application which has APIs into it can be integrated with miniOrange, and users can be created, updated, or deleted from that specific application based on the groups and policies which have been configured. Like if that user is in group 1, then that will be provisioned to only application 1 and will not be provisioned to application 2 or application 3. So let me quickly show you I've already set up a demo. So let me quickly show you that. So let's say I have a user which is stored in Active Directory, and I have a WordPress site with which I have set up the single sign-on. So let me click on login. So once I click on login, I will be redirected to the miniOrange site, and here I will enter the username and password of that user. So when I click on sign in, the user will be single sign-on into the WordPress site. And now for log in into the BigCommerce, he won't be able to enter the credentials once again. So when I will click on login to BigCommerce, the single sign-on process will occur, and BigCommerce is supported by JWT. So if I click on this, then he won't be asked to enter the credentials once again, and he will be automatically single sign into it. Okay, so this is how the single sign-on flow works. So this was pretty much about the demo of the CIAM. So Gaurav, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Amar. I think it was a very brief and nicely captured demo of our offerings. It iterates that the significance of user lifecycle management. It iterates that you should have single sign-on as well as multi-factor authentication in place. It also iterates the significance of having a role-based access to automate your entire user lifecycle management. Because if you cannot manage your identities, then the real problem starts there. So you need to stop the bug right there. And we are having capability. We are having a strong pillars to ensure that you get the right, validation platform, a single dashboard in which all the entries are monitored and all the proper authentication takes place. So thank you, Amar. Moving on towards the most important part in the identity and access management space in the Zero Trust, which is multi-factor authentication. So I'm passing the control to Pradeep, who is my colleague, who will showcase you the entire MFA offering in short time. Over to you, Pradeep.
Sure. Thank you so much, Gaurav, for the lovely introduction. Let me just share my screen. Just let me know once you guys can see my screen. Is it visible?
Yeah, it is visible, Pradeep. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah. So as Gaurav mentioned, we need multi-factor authentication for all of your application for making sure that they are having the highest level of security. And that includes to all the web application, mobile application, even the VPN router and switches. So miniOrange is the only solution in the world who basically provides you MFA for all of your application. So whether it's a mobile application, web application, or any type of application, if you want to add multi-factor authentication, miniOrange can do the job for you. In this particular demo, I'll be covering a few applications and we'll be showcasing you how exactly you can add multi-factor authentication and what are the options we have for MFA. So the first thing which I wanted to show you is MFA on top of your VPN. So because all the companies have VPN and that is the main gateway to access their intranet. So protecting that is like most critical nowadays. By default, it has a username and password of AD, which people mostly use. miniOrange does provide another option into that, that is username and password of AD, and then the multi-factor authentication of miniOrange. And that is the Redis protocol. So miniOrange does support MFA for VPNs, firewalls, routers, switches using this particular protocol. So any application which does support Redis protocol, miniOrange can do the job for you. That includes major firewalls like Cisco, Checkpoint, VPNs like AWS, Cisco Meraki, Fortinet. Many of them does support Redis protocol by default. And even if there's no support for that, we have a connector for that which can basically do the job. Now, when we talk about multi-factor authentication, there's one more critical layer, that is your Windows logins or your Mac logins or your Linux logins. So protecting your servers, protecting your workstations, and protecting your day-to-day devices with multi-factor authentication also becomes critical. Because servers are the one which hosted your critical applications. And if somebody is able to access those servers, then definitely for sure, it's a huge security risk. So miniOrange does offer MFA for Linux, macOS, and Windows, all type of operating systems. And even if you want to add it on top of your mobile application, that is also possible with the help of single sign-on or the connectors of miniOrange. Last but not least, miniOrange also does support TACX protocol. Basically, in case if your devices are old enough and they do not have support for Redis protocol, in that case, they must have support for TACX protocol. That is the another protocol for networking devices. Now, I'll just quickly show you a couple of videos regarding how the experience or what will be the user experience when they're trying to have multi-factor authentication. And then I'll be covering a few multi-factor authentication options miniOrange does offer. So the first video which I wanted to show you is the VPN MFA video and how exactly the user experience will be when the user is trying to connect to the VPN. Let's take an example. In this particular demo, this user VPN MFA at securify.com is trying to enter the username and password over here. This is a Fortinet VPN. So when they click on this connect button, so it will basically send a push notification on miniOrange application. So this is a mobile application screen over here, and you will receive a notification over there. Now you can approve it or you can deny it. If you click on this approve button, it will basically allow this firewall to be connected. Otherwise, this connection will stop. So this is basically the how the experience will be. This is only one type of authentication method. miniOrange does provide another type of authentication methods as well, like SMS, email, and many. Now, I'll just quickly show you the quick video of desktop MFA as well. Like in case if you want to have it on your workstations like Windows, how exactly the user experience will be. So in the case of workstations, we have a connector that needs to be installed on your Windows machine. And that connectors make sure when the user enter the username and password, the multi-factor authentication is coming. So in this particular demo, I'll be entering my username and password. And then I click on login button. This will again send a notification on my phone. On top of this, I can see that notification on top of here. I can approve it from here itself, and that will allow me to log into the Windows device. Again, the same case applies to your web applications, mobile application, and all type of application. Particular 2FA options. So I will come back to the dashboard again. Over there's a setup 2FA tab. Over there, you can see all the type of 2FA method miniOrange does support. That includes OTP or SMS, email, including the email link method. If you have authenticator apps like Google Authenticator app, Microsoft Authenticator app, even any other authenticator app which supports the standard algorithm. We also have our own miniOrange Authenticator app in which you can get features like push notification, where in the demo, as you see, a notification will come on the mobile and you can click on approve or deny. We also have support for call verification. In case if you're looking for some sort of hardware tokens like YubiKeys, display token, miniOrange does support that as well. Last but not least, if you want to use biometric keys like fingerprint, Face ID, Touch ID, all type of keys that is related to the biometric authentication and does support FIDO2 compliance, in that case, miniOrange can use those keys as well as a 2FA method. So if you want to use your fingerprint as a login method, then definitely for sure that can also be. We also have this multi-factor authentication can also be customized in such a way where if you want to have MFA for only a specific set of users, like for example, there's some admin users or the root users, and you want to have MFA for only for that, that is also possible. So this is the basic overview about the multi-factor authentication of miniOrange. In case if anyone have any questions, they can raise it in the group, or you can ask later on as well. Over to you, Gaurav.
Yeah, so thank you, Pradeep. And it was again a very important point in implementing Zero Trust Network is, do we have MFA in place? So if you see the recent report, it always suggests that you are protecting your VPN with MFA, it's fine, but are you protecting the entry point? The entry point is your Windows, Linux, RDP, Mac machines. So those are protected? Are your network devices, routers, switches are protected? So MFA is the basic building block, I guess. And I believe in that it plays a very important role in securing that part. So be it any kind of, multi-factor authentication to, protect your entities, miniOrange is having capability to deploy MFA on top of any infrastructure. Moving on towards another vertical, which became more popular from last 6-7 odd years, whether it's a bank, financial organizations, or any institutions which require to have a dashboard to see that the number of users are doing RDP and SSS sessions and cannot be monitored. Are they accessing the critical resources? Every now and then, you will see a headline in the newspaper saying that the critical resources are being compromised by the internal resources. And that's why it points out to a very important topic of stopping the lateral movement and it starts with a module called as PAM, Privileged Access Management. So I will not take much time. Over to you, Pradeep, to showcase the functionalities associated with, the PAM and the demo part. Over to you.
I guess my screen is still shared. Let me know if it is not.
You can share the screen, Pradeep.
I hope it is visible.
Yeah.
Right, Gaurav? Okay, thank you so much, Gaurav. So as Gaurav mentioned, so there's one more critical component, that is the privileged access management. So the privileged users are those users who have more access than the normal users. That is the admin users, the root users, all of them have some extra access as compared to the normal users. Because they have some extra access, that makes them vulnerable as well. Every hacker or every vulnerable account is that account which is having more access. If somebody wants to hack something, they will definitely target those accounts which have more access so that they can do more attacks and basically get more access. So in that case, miniOrange privileged access management solutions comes into the picture and basically solves the problem. Usually in all the organizations, all type of access is being shared over the email, on the chats, or without even the information. So there's no auditing of who is having access of what. So miniOrange privileged access management solution also handles your audits.
Pradeep, can you reshare the screen? Some of the participants weren't able to see the screen, so you can again reshare the screen.
Sure. Is it better now?
Yeah, Neeraj, can you see the screen now? You can just type in the chat box. Screen visible to the other participants?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I'll continue the point that our privileged accounts are the one which are most vulnerable. So in that case, miniOrange basically handles all these things for you. I'll take you through step by steps. What are the options we have? So miniOrange can protect your privileged accounts for your operating systems like Windows, Linux servers. All of them have some admin accounts, and these can be your production servers or your test environment servers or pre-prod environments. So accessing those servers is also critical. So miniOrange does provide an option where the privileged access management, the PAM solution, can be the middleman in between your users and your resources. So all the resources access has to go through the PAM server. So the PAM server can capture what activities the users are performing, which users have access to which resources. Also, in case if the user is trying to perform anything which is not required to them, or like for example, if I'm trying to shut down a server and I'm not allowed to do that, so that activity should be blocked as well. In this particular case, the resources are your operating system. So you can add all type of operating system like SH, RDP, VNCs, all type of resources which you want to protect, that can be protected. Now, once you add those resources, you can also allocate it to your users. For example, in my organization, there are 4 users who should have access to this particular resource. So I can come over here and allocate it. By default, when you allocate any resource to any user, in that case, the access is given for them permanently. Until unless those credentials are valid, they can access those resources. In this particular case, you can define the access for which period of time you want to give them the access. If I only want to give access for 24 hours, I can define it over here. Once the access has been given to the user will have access to this My Assets tab. Over here, they can see the resources they have access to. Now, for example, if I want to access this RDP machine, I'll just click on this access button. This will communicate with that RDP machine and bring that RDP machine into my browser itself. If you noticed, I did not enter any sort of credential. Still, the RDP machine is accessible to me completely over here. That is because of the password vault of miniOrange. It has its own password vault that basically fills the credential for you without you knowing the credentials. If you do not share the credential with the user, nobody can share it further with any other user. The access is always go through PAM server, and that's how we can record those activities as well. The same case applies to SSH machine. If I click on this SSH machine's access button, it will communicate with that Linux machine and bring that Linux machine into my browser. I can perform all the commands which I can perform in a Linux server. Same things I can do over here as well. Now, the administrator can also see these records as well. If I want to see the real-time sessions, who is accessing what, I can come into this dashboard and I can see that somebody is trying to access this resource, and I can view their live session as well. Whatever they're performing in that particular session, I can see it over here as an administrator. If I want to terminate those sessions, so for example, in this particular case, I ran these commands. If I try to run anything else, let's take example, if I'm entering ls once again, so I can see at the end of the day, there's one more command as well. If I want to terminate their session, I can terminate from here itself. Once I terminate it, the user will see the session has been suspended and they won't be able to access this resource again. So session ends. Those video recording are being saved over here as well. So you can see the completed sessions video recording over here. You can see what are the commands they type. In case if you want to see which user ran this particular command on this particular server, you can also see that. If you want to just directly go into that particular part of the video, you can just click on this and that will basically take you to that. Now, I'll move over to the other type of access or other type of resources which we can protect. That is your databases. Again, database is very critical to all the organization. By default, every admin have that direct access to the database. And what are the commands they're typing on that database that you never. In this particular case, what will happen, the same way you created a resource in miniOrange for operating system, you can create it for the database as well. You just need to type in or provide the details like which database type it is. It is Postgres, MySQL, Oracle DB, even the Kubernetes or Ansibles of your AWS or GCP Google. You can protect them as well. Now, once you add those resources, you can allocate it in the same way. Once the allocation is done, the user can come into this dashboard, click on this access button. Again, this will communicate with that database and bring that database into your browser. You can perform all those commands which you can perform in a normal database, and these will be recorded as well. The user's activities, all that type of commands they're typing, they're being recorded in all these cases, including the commands as well as the video recording. Last but not least, we also have support for web application type of resources. So if you have desktop application or web application, which does not support single sign-on by default, and you have some critical credential. Let's take an example. If you're using LinkedIn and you have company's LinkedIn account and you wanted to make sure that LinkedIn account's username and password is not known to any other user. So you can save those user and password in miniOrange password vault in the PAM solution itself, and the user can access it without entering their username and password anywhere, and basically just have the direct access to that web application. The same way we did it for IDP, SSH, and databases, the same way it will work for web application and desktop applications as well. As I mentioned earlier, so you can control the commands which the users are typing. For example, if I'm trying to perform some vulnerable commands like shutdown, so I should not be able to do that. Like, let's take an example. In the case of database, I should not be able to drop the database or delete some critical values from the database. So those things can also be done with the help of these policies. You can define the policy like what are the access level users are having, which users can perform which commands. You can also define. In case if you have some critical resources and you want to have multi-factor authentication on top of that, that is also possible. So you can have multi-factor authentication when the users are trying to access some resources. And in that way, if the critical resources are there which you want to have extra protection for, then definitely for sure this MFA can do that job for you. Last but not least, we have a ticketing system as well. This is basically an approval system where the users can raise a ticket. They can define that I need access to this resource for this period of time. So you can give an automatic access, or if you want to have a manual access where the approval will be given by the approver. So approver will receive an email or a notification on this dashboard where they can see like this user is trying to access this resource and they need an approval for this. So if they want to give the access, they can give the access. They can see all those details as well, like which user is trying to get the access, what is the reason, and for what period of time they want to have the access. So all those details the administrator can see, and they can also accept it or deny it. There can be multiple approvals as well. If you want to have 2 layers of approval or 3 layers of approval, that can also. I just wanted to highlight one more thing. When we talk about this Vault, so minions have integration with GCP Vault as well. In case if you have third-party vaults like GCP, AWS, Azure, HashiCorp, or even if you have some HSM tool, and if you want to integrate that with miniOrange, that is also. So this is basic overview about our PAM solution. What are the offerings we have in that one? In case if anyone have any questions, they can ask in the chat. Otherwise, we can ask them in the later stage. Over to you, Gaurav.
Thank you, Pradeep. It was very comprehensive demo about the capabilities. And the PAM, which is the only player or the only module which ensures that a single dashboard through which all entities are protected, through all entities can be managed, and it is having all kind of recording capabilities, whether the user is typing some command in CLI and he or she is accessing some critical resources. That kind of activities can be monitored, can be stopped. So auditing liability is the main pillars of privilege access management. And as Pradeep was mentioning, the dashboard is simple. Admin loves our product because it sets the setup going within 30 minutes to 1 hour of time. So that simple, that attractive UI, what the miniOrange is known for in the market. Moving back towards our last element, which is the most important to support all this module, which I was talking about at the application level. So these are the module which goes as a basic pillar, the foundation, whether it's a PAM, whether it's identity and access management, SSO, MFA, adaptive authentication. On top of it, if you want to have a zero trust network, then the most critical element which can solve your majority of the problem on the application layer, it's CASB, Cloud Access Security Broker. People generally call it with a different name. Some call it reverse proxy and so forth and so on. So we have a very strong CASB team in-house who has solved various complex use cases across the globe on top of all these modules. So let me present it to you, my colleagues, Dhruv, who will showcase the different offerings of our CASB. And also we have DLP in the house, which will have a capability to add on top of it. It complements the CASB. So over to you, Dhruv, for the demonstration of CASB element. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav, for the introduction. And we share my screen. So my screen should be visible now. So as we saw the 3 pillars of the zero trust, now it comes to the end. This is the CASB. So basically the CASB is accessing your all SaaS application. This is a broker which sits in front of your all applications and manage the granular access control and other things. So let me go one by one what all possible solutions CASB has. So let's say in today's era, the organizations uses many SaaS applications like Google Workspace, Office 365 Suite, Atlassian, many more SaaS applications like Zoho, Shopify, Admin Panel, this kind of SaaS applications. So whenever a user visits, the CASB first identify if the user session is there or not. Based on that, it redirects the users to the identity and access management, and all the MFA and the authentication part, which you saw in this webinar, applies for the user. Once the user has the successful access, it goes to the CASB, and then the CASB comes in the picture. It has the granular access control. Basically, we can define what user can access which application. It's the extendable version of the default SaaS application provides.
The second one is the real-time adaptive restrictions. For example, if your organizations want that the application should be accessible within your office network only, maybe via the VPN or something like that, or maybe the application should be accessible from a specific country or a specific time zone. This kind of restrictions we do apply on the real time. The third solution which we do provide is the CASB protection, data protection. So in that, all these cloud applications have a sensitive data information like invoices, quotations, customer data, everything. So we do make ensure that this particular data is protected from moving in the wrong hands. So based on the roles and the groups the organization defines, we do provide the data access based on that. The last one is the threat detection. So basically, if any threat is moving forward, we detect at the runtime and prevent it. So let's move forward with the dashboard. So let's consider a case here where an organization has a Google Workspace environment in their organization, and they want to do a granular access control with the data protection. So this is our dashboard of the CASB. So if I move forward with the policy first, as the policies are the sensitive information which we needs to create. So I have created few policies here. So the first one, let's say if I want to protect the applications within my office network only, so I can just create a simple policy here. Let's say IP restriction, and I can define the number of IPs, the office networks using which the Google Workspace applications can be accessible. The second one may be with the time-based restriction. I can define if the particular time zone the user should be allowed or not allowed. So I can just define the start and end time as well. This is the prevent download policy, in which the applications like the mail, Google Drive, so it will prevent the users to download the files from their Google Docs or the Google Drive. They won't be able to download the files from there. This is the location-based restriction, where a specific a group of users would be able to access the application from specific country region only. Let's say Afghanistan or America, this kind of thing. Now, moving forward, we have the file extension-based prevention as well. Let's say if you want to define extension here, only PDF file should be allowed to access, not the other files. We can define those kind of level as well. And the last one is the disable copy. So no one can copy the content from your, let's say, mailbox and paste it into any notepad file in your system and leak the data. So these are some policies which we have. Let me share my screen again. I guess some people is not able to see it. Let me know once it's visible. It's visible, right? Okay. So these are some policies which we have created. Moving forward, if we take a consider of the Google Workspace environment here, these are some basic configuration to connect your Google Workspace, and we can connect with any authentication source here with the SAML and the OAuth protocol. So these are the basically main component here is the groups. So let's say if my organization has some regular users, some are the management level of users. I have configured the regular users with the file protection policy. And if I move forward here, I can also define the granular access control within the application as well. So whoever is from the regular user group, I can define if the Gmail application should have the app restriction, if the calendar application should have the app restriction. If I want no restriction for the calendar application, I can just simply choose the no app restriction here. I can also block the application to be accessed itself as well. I can just disable the app and this application won't be accessible to the regular user group. So that's how we can extend the granular access control here. Even for a regular user group, if I want to provide a specific custom restriction, I can extend it to that level as well. So that's how we do provide a very granular access control. Now, if we talk about the end user part, So the end user has this kind of the dashboard from where he can access all the applications. It has the restriction application, block application, all are the listed here. So let's say if I was trying to access the mail application within the network, but when I switch my network and on the real time, if I try to access it, it gonna block me. Yeah. So on the real time, if I try to access, it gonna block me the access. So that's how you can define the real time access control for the applications. And so this was the part of the predefined or the third-party SaaS applications. Let's say if you have any custom application, which is the on-premise or the self-hosted cloud SaaS application, that we do also support. So let's just we just need to configure the domain which the application is running, their SSL certs. After that, we can just simply go to the secure cloud apps, and over there, we can just configure the application on which path, what should be the upstream URL. That basically works on the reverse proxy concept. And once we make a proxy here, we can do the restrictions layer similar to the IP restriction and the location restriction. For allowed IPs, we can just define the number of IPs here. We can just enable the location-based restriction policy for here as well. In addition to that, we have the caching and performance option as well, using which we can just improve the performance of the cloud SaaS application. We do have the rate limiting and the load balancing, using which you can limit the number of requests within a time range. You can also click add the multiple upstream servers here. And there are some other mechanism like the authentication. So basically any application which someone tries to access, first they need to do the single sign-on and the MFA, whatever is configured on the IAM level, then only they would be able to access this application. So any application, cloud application, which doesn't have any single sign-on protocol, that also can be supported with using this particular solution. So these are some solution which is supported on the corporate devices as well as the BYOD devices as well, all these solutions. So this was the part of securing the cloud SaaS applications. But let's say if some user level has the ability to download the data into their system, and once the data is going into their devices, how we can secure that particular data using the DLP. My colleague Prashant is moving forward with that concept. Over to you, Prashant.
Thank you, Dhruv. So, as Dhruv said, you can basically protect the data, your Google application, using CASB. Okay. So now consider a case where your employee is using a laptop to log in into your system. So using our IAM, we can basically use 2FA to restrict the access of that particular employee, and CASB to basically restrict for that particular application. Now take a case where we have allowed user to download a PDF from the CASB, and that particular employee is basically evil, and he can share some data to other company, or maybe forward it to another personal email. So how we can basically restrict that? So DLP will come into play when you need to protect your data. And in this case, the demo that I'm showing here is that we are using network DLP and the email DLP. So first I will go through the dashboard. Okay. So in our dashboard, you would basically need to install an agent on your employee's device, and these devices will get auto-registered into our dashboard. And based on these devices, you can create a device group and to create different level of policies. And to different level of policies, you can basically attach a couple of policies, like you can disable USB, you can disable Ethernet, you can create a firewall like rule for that particular set of devices where you need to, which URLs they are able to access and which URLs they cannot access. Also, you can define what kind of data they can upload it into the cloud. So using that, basically, if you see here, I have a HTTP and HTTPS policy, and using this policy, I can assign it to a device group. So for example, I want to assign this to all the devices. And I also want to say that this particular device can only upload TXT, docs, and PDF to any website. And I will mark it as high and name it as, let's say, miniOrange. And I can assign a classification. For example, in that particular data set, that's docs, PDF, and text, you cannot have this particular classification. Okay, so you can save it and check it if these are accessible. Okay, and these classification can be created using our dashboard itself, where you can create classification based on couple of rules. We have default rules as well in case you have personal identifiable information. So you can basically pick up rules from our dictionary itself and then create a classification according to that. So in this particular case, what I'm trying to do here is I will disable this policy and I will focus on the existing demo that we are going through. So what I have done here is I have created an email policy, and this particular email policy will be used to block all the emails from your Google Workspace to any personal email. So for example, I'm logged in using a demo user. Okay, this particular user has basically shown you the demo, this particular user only. So what we can do here is we can basically try to send an email to a personal email and check if this is blocked. So once we do that, our DLP server will basically catch this email because your Google Workspace will be connected to our email DLP server, and that particular server will catch it and it will resend it back to your email inbox. And using that email, you will know that this policy was breached or not. So for example, this particular email that was blocked here, we have received an email from our DLP policy itself that this particular email that you tried to send to a personal account was blocked. Okay. Now coming to the policy again. So if a user is able to download a data into their device, they can transfer it to a third party using a peripheral device. For example, they can transfer the data using USB. They can transfer the data using Ethernet. They can transfer the data using any third party application. For example, let's say Slack or something like that. And they can also transfer the data by sharing it through the personal email. So we have seen that we can block the email through the personal account. Now we will see if he tries to logs in into your device using a third party Google account itself, then we can block it here as well. So if you see, we have a section in our dashboard where you can define which domains are allowed in that particular application. For Google, let's say I have defined that this particular domain will be allowed and all other domains will be basically blacklisted. Okay, so this is my company's device. So I'm assuming that I will not be allowed to log in using my personal email, that is Gmail, and any third party or other company's email as well. So we have defined it here. And what we will do, I will try to access using my Securify email. So if you see, this is a Securify domain. And what we have defined in our DLP dashboard is this is a Clementine security domain. So if we want to restrict the user to log in using our their third-party email, we just have to define the domain. And once we do that, you will see the users will basically see an error from the Google itself that they are not allowed to log in into this particular network from this email. Okay, we can try to use personal email as well. So just to test it, and you could see that this particular personal email is also blocked in this particular network. Okay, so I think we have blocked all the emails that are going through email, and we have also blocked the personal access to your Google Workspace. You can also extend it using our multiple policies, and once you have seen all of those policies, you can basically come to our dashboard and check what are the high risk incident that had happened, and take a look at the reporting part, where you will see all the reports related to the emails, to the desktop blocking, and for the USB blocking as well. And let me go back and show you the feature of notification itself. So for example, this is a breach. If these policies are violated, this is particularly a data breach, and you want to get a notification as soon as possible. So you can basically create a notification settings for in the dashboard itself, where you will define what kind of line manager or manager would be notified in case a policy is breached. So you can define that using our notification section here, and you will get an email notification. You can define multiple email addresses, and those email addresses along with the admin itself will be notified in case there is a policy violation for the data breach. You can also define the similar thing we did for the Google can be done for the Outlook, and since the data can be leaked from Slack and other third parties as well, so you can basically restrict the access to Slack spaces as well, along with the Office 365 domains. You can also define some custom domains. For example, I have defined a CASB URL itself here, and I have basically configured it to only allow login using the clementinesecurity.com. So this can be done with the DLP along with the peripheral access as well. So I think that's basically touches all the DLP part. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Prashant. It was very well organized demo about our offerings on CASB, to protect your infra, to protect your applications, basically. So we can have a combination of PAM as well as CASB, where PAM ensures that your infrastructure is protected and CASB ensures that your applications are protected. So these are the different building blocks we are having in miniOrange. One can stitch the story around it to achieve a zero trust network. I hope you understood the concept of zero trust and how the identity play a very important role. And the peripheral elements like CASB, adaptive authentication, DLP are the major supporting blocks. So looking forward, Zia, would you like to comment on the webinar for a minute, have a feedback on the same, and then we'll open the discussion to the entire audience if they want to ask questions. Zia?
Yep, thanks, Gaurav. I think the webinar was quite good. It covers all aspects of zero trust and how this ties together to deliver a secure environment for our customers. And I'm sure that is what everybody's takeaway will be. From my point of view, I think it gives an entire end-to-end use case based demonstration of what the potential of using miniOrange solutions is. I particularly liked I am biased towards CASB, so that's my favorite. But apart from that, the PAM solution, I think the reporting feature I haven't seen in any other product. So that is definitely a really good demonstration. Sorry, my camera was waiting for me to allow the permissions. So I think it was overall a really good demo. I can there's stuff that I can see that has a really good potential compared to, the competitive products and the previous solutions that we've used in the past as well. So that's my take on it. And thank you to the miniOrange team to putting this together. It's a lot of work in setting these things up. So we appreciate this.
So thank you, Zia, for the brief summary of what we have done. And I think, as you rightly mentioned, CASB, PAM, and MFA, these are the most, the easiest entry point for any organization to curb the attacks. So that's what all is relevant. So it starts with the basic element, but ultimately this supporting element plays a very important role. Now we are moving towards the last section, which is nothing but question and answer session. I think many of the participants have asked the question, but even if someone wants to talk to us in person, please raise the hand, or you can chat your name in, you can just send your name in chat or Q&A, and we'll allow the participant, to interact with our expert team if you have any questions. So we can have this session for another 10 minutes. If there are no questions, we'll terminate it. So anyone who wants to talk to our expert team, please raise a hand. And so, yeah, Akmal, I think we are giving controls to you, Akmal, and then once you are ready, you can jump in the conversation. Akmal, you are audible.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for the demo. I think it was quite clear. And we have just one, as a user, using the miniOrange, there should be some vehicle that shows us these steps. These steps could have different numbers in it. If we want to achieve some part of it, it should be given in steps, and steps can be numbered. Can be numbered in odd, like 3, 1, 2, or whatever. It would be a prerequisite. Okay, so my concern was we were trying to set up the Windows MFA, and for Windows MFA we need a local user, and we should have the same user in the miniOrange IDP as well. So if we were not able to use the user format like the email address user@ of something. So what is the solution to this?
Okay. So Akmal, to answer the first point, if you see our guides, it's a step-by-step approach where it is mentioned about the integration steps. I think I can showcase that stuff to you. With our content library, you can see a step-by-step where you can install the stuff and do that part. About your second question, I am having Navdeep in the call who will address that part. Navdeep, over to you.
Hello. Yes, so we can have the users as just the user without the domain in the miniOrange, and that will work with the Windows and the machines.
Okay, but I have mentioned that if we opt this approach, we will not be able to. Okay, so if we opt this approach, we will not be able to. I think configure the SSO.
We will be able to configure SSO. Like basically, there are multiple fields.
Okay, just hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. What we can do? We can have a username like regular username for the Windows, like user, and we have to use the email address as user@work.com. That is already a link to the SSO. Just imagine this situation.
Right.
So what is wrong with it? That how I can send the email for the to the new users, because if I use the email as user@work.com, it is already SSO enabled, and he will be redirected to the miniOrange IDP.
It's like we can have multiple custom attributes in miniOrange as well for users. Like you can have alternate emails where you want to send an email as well. Like the username is something like user1@gmail.com or something like that.
So you can have alternate emails where you can send the link for registration or for the MFO part. We do have multiple attributes for that, like alternative email attributes as well for that part.
Okay. It is a user base, right?
Yeah.
Or user base that we can. Okay, I got it. I will try it. And if I have problem, I definitely reach out to you.
Yeah, you can reach out to me.
I hope it has answered your part, Akmal, and looking forward. And there was question about from Dilip saying that SSO, MFA, PAM, CASB, DLP, all these features are on a single console. So we have an integrated story. That's what I mentioned in the starting, that zero trust is a concept where we stitch all this module and give you a single solution. So SSO, MFA will be a single dashboard. PAM will be a dashboard or entity associated with SSO and MFA, a slightly different dashboard. And CASB as well as DLP will be a different dashboard. But altogether, it will be a single stop solution as a miniOrange, which will give you a dashboard through which you can monitor all these activities. Dilip, further questions for us? Anyone who wants to have a chat with our expert team? Okay, so I think we are done for this webinar. Thank you all. Thank you entire Syntax team, Zia specifically, Siraj, and other members of Syntax Consulting. Thank you to Amar, Navdeep, Dhruv, Aditya, Shubham, Kalyani for supporting, Prashant, and looking forward for another session where we come up with the different, prospect of ensuring that how we can protect the client infrastructure with, different modules what we have. So thank you guys. It was lovely meeting you. It was around 1.5 hour session, but it was really interesting. And the questions asked by the participants are also very intrinsic. Thank you all. Thank you, Syntax Consulting. See you next time.
Thanks, everyone.